and the theme I really wrote to was what is forgivable. So there's so many layers of things going on in this story. You know, there's infidelity. Can you get over it? Can you ever really let that go? Um, you know, different flirtations and sexual tensions and different things going on. And then there are things that are just deal breakers, you know, that
Right.
are like, and that the only solution is really vengeance. And so I really kept that theme in my mind of what can you forgive, no matter how much you love someone. Are there things they can do that you're like, no, no, I will not tolerate that, or I will make you pay for that. That was very much in my mind as I wrote this novel.
This is Story to Count with Jen Jumba. In conversations with writers, something magical happens, and we begin to see them as human beings and not just the name on the spine of a book. My hope is through these conversations, you learn about their craft, them as a person, and you'll become like me, fiercely loyal, want to read their current book, entire backlist, any future book or any book they blurb. And when you see their name, you'll want to support them, not only as incredible storytellers, but also the thoughtful individuals you have come to know. My guest today is Robyn Harding. She's the international best-selling writer of several novels, including The Haters, The Perfect Family, The Arrangement, and Her Pretty Face. Her novels, The Party and The Drowning Woman, were both finalists for the Crime Writers of Canada Best Crime Novel Award. Her novel, The Swap, debuted as #1 on the Globe and Mail and Toronto Star Canadian bestseller lists. Robyn is also the screenwriter and executive producer of the independent film The Steps, which I did watch last night. She lives in Vancouver, British Columbia, with her family and 2 cute but deadly rescue chihuahuas. Robyn's books are always bestsellers, and I have no doubt that her latest, Strangers in the Villa, which just published 2 weeks ago, will also top the charts. I've been lucky enough to have met and spent time with Robyn, and I will tell you that she is sharp, kind, funny, and just a truly fantastic person. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, Jen. Geez, I'm blushing. That was such a nice intro.
Well, we're here to talk about Strangers in the Villa, which just published 2 weeks ago. And I know you're typically asked with, what's the elevator pitch for this story, but can you just briefly introduce us to Strangers in the Villa?
Yes. Okay. So this is a story of a couple, Curtis and Sydney, who have moved to Spain to repair their marriage. There's been an infidelity, and they've decided to flee the scene of the crime and rebuild their love and their commitment and their trust as they rebuild this old villa that they have bought on a hillside above the Costa Brava. And they're struggling with this, and they're feeling quite isolated, quite lonely. And one day another couple breaks down, their van breaks down on the road outside of the villa. And Sydney and Curtis decide to invite them in and let them charge their phones, and then let them, help out around the place. And these strangers will rock the relationship. And there are secrets and there are dark crimes in the past, and someone is not going to leave the villa alive.
Yeah, it is a terrific story. So I know you are a world traveler. So did you travel to Spain and see this place and think, this should be set here? Or did you think about an isolated location and then decide this is where I should travel to see it? How did that all work?
I went on a trip to Spain 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. And while there, we were with a group of friends, and they said, "Oh, you need to meet our friends who have just moved here." So we had lunch with this couple from Australia who had just left Sydney, had given up everything, and they were living in this beautiful house, very isolated, very remote, just the two of them on this hillside above the Costa Brava. And everyone was thinking, wow, they're living their dream. It's so wonderful. Right. It's so idyllic. And my brain was going, oh, how could it go wrong, right? You're all alone. You don't speak the language. You don't have any friends or community around you. just the two of you. And I just thought, oh God, that is such a great setup for a thriller. And this sunny, beautiful, idyllic location juxtaposed with secrets and lies and danger. It just really spoke to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been to Spain, and I think you capture this part of the world beautifully. I mean, with the hills and the mountains and the
Oh,
seaside and capturing the culture.
yeah, it was such a fabulous trip, and it's funny that such a horrifying story came out of it. But I do definitely capture the beauty, I think, of that area, and I was lucky enough to spend time there. Took a lot of photos. I grabbed
Mhm.
like real estate brochures. I knew I was going to write something set there, so I was kind of doing my research.
It kind of makes me think a little bit about, wherever you go, there you are, so you
Yeah,
could escape this, as you say, scene of the crime and flee to a country where you know no one and you're relatively isolated. And I think a lot of times it's great to be able to take a step back and kind of avoid the typical things or distractions that get in the way. So, initially I'm really rooting for Sydney and Curtis to like, okay, you can fix this, you can figure this out. And having a collaborative project, I think helps.
yeah. And it is such a grand gesture by the guilty party towards the
Mhm.
injured party. Let's just leave it all behind. All I care about is you, and
Mhm.
we'll leave our jobs, we'll leave our friends, we'll leave any distractions, and we will work on us.
I mean, for somebody to sweep in and buy this beautiful villa, absolutely. I mean, sounds like a grand gesture, for sure. And Sydney's leaving a pretty big job, right? So she was a defense attorney in New York City. So obviously, representing people that could cause trouble.
Yeah,
Um,
public defender. So, taking on people that, it's not necessarily the same as being a paid defense attorney, right?
Correct.
She has a real sense of justice, but
Yeah.
yeah, she's representing people who have or have not done really terrible things. So she is leaving behind some scary people in her past.
Right. And same with Curtis. I mean, he's leaving behind a big career as well. You have two people who are used to kind of being incredibly successful at the top of their games deciding, let's leave it all behind and start over.
Yeah.
And start with something like having to rehab a villa and learn those kinds of skills. I mean, painting, I think we can all do, but I mean, if you asked me to do carpentry, I'd be kind of lost.
Why this couple, Bianca and Damien, who turn up at the door with like a skill set that is very useful, and also the dynamic of these two city slickers who are very yeah, like you said, used to having the power and having influence, and being sort of upper echelon, and then these two come in and they come from different backgrounds, and there is a but they have different strengths and different level of confidence
Right.
and a different foundation in their relationship. So the dynamics between the two couples was really fun to write.
There are times where I think, oh, it would complement one another, right? Because you have different skill sets. Whereas Curtis talks about he was being raised where intelligence was rewarded and not
Mhm.
necessarily manual labor. And he never really got into fights. He was much
Yes,
more, I guess, cultured or sophisticated or whatever the right word is.
yes, good point. And Damien is very physical, but I
Hmm.
think then there's this insecure, challenged masculinity that comes out in Curtis, but when he is faced off against this big burly um Aussie who can do all these, work with his hands and do all
Right.
these things. So it makes Curtis even more insecure.
Right. And then that it causes a bit of tension. So it always is interesting. They say, opposites attract, and sometimes that works. It complements one another. And other times it creates this tension because you have two different classes where Damien and Bianca are, I would say they come across as these free loving souls that just kind of ride the wave of life and kind of always seem to land on their feet. They're riding through the countryside in this van and just experiencing life.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and like many years ago, many years ago, I went backpacking for 6 months. And it is so interesting when you are all travelers, you're all out of context. It doesn't matter what your real life looks like back home or where you come from or
Mm-hmm.
how wealthy your family is or whatever. You're all in these hostels and you're all just who you are. And it's really always been fascinating to me is that when you take people out of their natural environment and plunk them in a new one, dynamics change and
Right.
confidence changes and who you thought you were is challenged. And, it was just, there were so many things to play with. Having, this mystery set in, this different, location.
Right. Past couple years, I've taken a few solo trips. I mean,
Yeah.
solo with a group of other solo travelers. And it is interesting, the dynamic that you have 12 or 16 people from, all over the US and Canada that are, it's almost like an episode of The Real World, right? Forced to come
Oh,
together, right? To travel together. And
yeah.
interesting the dynamics, group dynamics that are influenced in terms of
Yes.
how you interact. And there are times where I'm like, well, this is an opportunity to kind of reinvent, kind of
Right.
figure out who I really am outside of that environment where I feel like I'm in this box.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Yes.
there are times where I'm like, oh no, like I didn't know I could do this. This is kind of cool. Um,
Yeah. Good for
yeah,
you. I love that. I love that.
yeah. So I think that's the interesting thing with these two couples. It starts with, as you said, they knock on the door. Van died, right out front. Can we charge our phones? Look, our phones are dead. Okay, seems rather innocent. And then they end up staying for a longer period of time. And
Hmm. Yeah.
Sydney's kind of starved for company. It's been her and her husband for the last 4 months. And
Exactly. And she's the one that's kind of been, she's wounded and she's broken and she's
right.
looking for kind of reinvention. And I have seen a few reviews like, who would ever invite someone into your home? I would if I was
Yeah.
stuck with my husband for 4 months.
Yeah. Did we learn nothing from the pandemic when we're locked in our house? Right.
Right? And you're just like a couple, they're the same age as us, they are fun and funny, they have skills. I thought, oh, I don't know, I would probably be like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
So,
sure. No problem. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, I think the same thing. I would probably do the same. So it's really kind of interesting that, you talk about secrets and lies and it starts with an infidelity on Curtis's behalf. So hence the grand gesture of, look, I bought us a villa and we're going to leave everything behind and allow us to focus on us. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
best laid plans, right?
exactly. That goes wrong fairly quickly. By chapter
Yeah.
3, we know things are not going to work out that way.
No, of course. Yeah. Plus we see your name on the cover. So that's also a
Of
bit of a
course, things
clue.
are not going to go well. I always say my books are about a blah, blah, blah that goes horribly wrong. So,
Right.
insert whatever that is, and it's not going to go well.
Right. But I'm also always kind of struck about the themes that come up in your book and in the themes of like, who are we? Are the people that we think we know, are they really who we think they are?
Yeah, and I
I'm always fascinated. We
think,
think we know somebody and
yeah, and theme is very important to me, especially in this book. And the theme I really wrote to was what is forgivable. So there's so many layers of things going on in this story. There's infidelity. Can you get over it? Can you ever really let that go? Um, different flirtations and sexual tensions and different things going on. And then there are things that are just deal breakers, that
right.
are like, and that the only solution is really vengeance. And so I really kept that theme in my mind of what can you forgive no matter how much you love someone. Are there things they can do that you're like, no, no, I will not tolerate that, or I will make you pay for that.
Right.
So that was very much in my mind as I wrote this novel.
And to your point, it is, you talk about layers and nuances. There's so many things happening in this story. And I have to be really careful as we're talking to not spoil anything
Right.
for anybody who hasn't read it and who's going to go out and read it, because it's a fantastic book that you can't stop reading. So I'm thinking a little bit too about us and the other thing that comes up is feelings. Like, we all have feelings. Like, you can't really control the feelings you have. What we're essentially supposed to be able to control is the actions or the behavior that comes from those feelings.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's the other thing about this isolation is that I think it allows the characters to act on feelings because they're out of context, right? Like if you were at home and you're like, oh, I'm feeling a certain way, I will hide that. I
Right.
will, in my society, at work, with my community around, but you're just plunked in this environment, which gives you this freedom that when you are provoked or excited or attracted or whatever, you feel this carte blanche because it's just you four in this environment. You're not even communicating with the people around you. No one speaks fluent Spanish.
No.
So, they don't have any context. They're just four individuals. And so everybody's kind of given this freedom to act on things that they may not have if they were home.
And I think the things are amplified because there's not the distraction or the face we put on when we're with those that we work with or those that are our family or those that are people on our teams or whatever.
Exactly.
So I find it incredibly interesting. The other thing I think about is commitment. Two ways. First of all, in the commitment that you make when, you're with somebody, whether you're married or, you're a partner. And, at what point are you so committed that you can't go back? When at the same time with your actions, like you're set on an idea, you're set on something that triggers you. And at what point are you like, I'm committed. I can't stop now.
Yeah. And that is a real struggle, particularly for Sydney, in that she's really doubled down on this marriage. So she has, forgiven, she has relocated, she has given up everything. And so, the stakes are so high for her if this doesn't work.
And very early on in the book, I mean, she talks about the fact that just like everybody in our life has an opinion on what they think we should be doing, right? What we ought to be doing and fighting against that. And she even questions herself, the fact that she's choosing to double down, as you say, does that make her weak?
Right.
For forgiving somebody. And if you say you forgive somebody, can she, and can that just, be gone moving forward? And life is complicated, and you do a wonderful job capturing the complexities of what it's like to be human. That the characters are not black and white, that they're nuanced with, there's a little bit of good, there's a little bit of not so good. And we know that life's not easy. Like people say, oh, just put it in the past, or let it go. Well, I think most of us would be a whole lot better off if we knew exactly how to do that.
Right. And I think when there's something like an affair in a marriage, and people that care about you are, some people are saying, put it behind you, and other people are saying, leave him and make him pay and take him for everything he's worth. And, they're trying to shut out that noise and focus on just their marriage. But it doesn't, you can't really leave it behind, really, even the feelings, like you said, the complicated feelings. And all my characters are very complex, and there is some good and there is some bad. And, I think we're all complex people. And if, I'm going to sound like I'm horrible. If you knew all my thoughts.
So we read all your thoughts.
Every thought they have, they know how many of us do not ever have unkind thoughts or wrong thoughts or think the wrong thing? Everybody does, right? And so these characters, I like to really dig into that.
And the thing is, some of your characters say what we think, which is even better. So it's almost like we have a preview of like, wow, if I were to play that out, that's how it would end. Okay, yeah, maybe not. Yeah. Or maybe that wasn't such a bad move after all. Yeah. The other thing that comes up, I think, is a sense of revenge that stems from jealousy and, trying to figure out what the future looks like.
Yeah.
So I find that really interesting as well, played out between these, two couples.
Yeah. And that is another theme in this, is revenge and letting go of things. And what you can and can't forgive. Every character is grappling with that kind of thing. And
Right.
even yourself, even forgiving yourself, like I think that people can lie to themselves. I think that people can do horrible things and convince themselves that it wasn't that bad and justify. I think that we see that we see it all the time. We see people that have convinced themselves that what they did is not wrong, or it's minor, or it doesn't count for some reason. And that I feel is very timely.
There's a line in here talking about Bianca, right? In terms of, how we choose to act and, can we go back? And she talks about she's, it's been observed that she's mastered the art of compliance and made herself small and benign, like a survival mechanism.
Right.
So then that's the other thing that pops up for me is the things that we're willing to do just to be able to survive a particular situation and or person.
Yes.
So,
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, that was, yeah, she has, she's a survivor.
mm-hmm.
Bianca is a survivor, and she has been able to go along and get along for a long time. And then something has happened in her life that she's like, I can't just go along and get along anymore. I have to take action. I have to take steps to right this wrong. And yeah, she is a very complex, interesting character who's had a really rough go of it, a rough life,
Mm-hmm.
terrible mothering.
Oh, yes.
One thought that was always in my mind. Did you ever watch I, Tonya, the Tonya Harding
Yes.
documentary? I
Yes.
kept thinking about that. I grew up in a very small town. I had a lovely upbringing, but I grew up with rough kids that had, they were just tough. They were just so strong. Like, things were not that good at home, and they just rose out of it. And they were really kind of scary. They had to be. And that's kind of what Bianca reminded me of. And watching that documentary, I, Tonya, or not documentary, the movie. Oh God, I love that movie. And she's just so tough, and so much bad stuff happens to her. And, we all know it didn't end well for her, but seeing her grapple her way out of the muck was really fascinating. And I thought of her while I was writing Bianca.
Well done, because that's the thing that always strikes me about human behavior. I think we're fascinating to look back on, but how two people can go through really similar situations that are tough, and one just goes on to kind of perpetuate that cycle.
Yeah.
And then another person finds their way to rise up out of it at their core, which normally is very well guarded and protected. They're good people. And so you see this softness in Bianca, but you understand, like, her mom says things to her like, I wish you were never born. I mean, I can't even imagine saying that or hearing that and the impact that has. And Curtis didn't grow up in a great household either. Yeah. He seems to have kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to use my academic, my intellect and, build a life. And so it's always interesting how people can have similar toxic upbringings and different trajectories, I guess, in life.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's really fascinating. And when I write characters, I always do profiles for them about how they grew up and what their relationship with their parents is like. Do they have siblings? I always create, whether it makes it into the story or not, but I think that just really informs who we are and why we do things. So if I know that, whether it makes it into the novel or not, it really informs how they act when they go through a plot. So it's
that's fascinating.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very helpful.
So do you almost interview them? Is there a list of questions that you kind of always ask to understand essentially who that character is so that they would be acting authentically in the course of your story?
Well, Jen, I'm very lazy, I will tell you. So
you're the opposite of lazy.
No, I am. It's not that formal of a process, but every character has a little a bunch of adjectives, a bunch of scenarios. Like I just put their name and then I'm like, here's where they grew up and here are their issues and here's their relationship with their parents. And it's just kind of more of a free flow
in your head, or is it like
on,
written
on paper.
Okay, good. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
I'm not that lazy. I do write it down, but it's very free flowing in that I'm just trying to get a handle on their situation and how they were brought up and how they feel about themselves. And then I feel just like I know them a lot better. And so then when I'm writing, it makes sense how they behave.
That's terrific. And contrast that a little bit because you wrote a movie, your screenwriter wrote The Steps, which I did watch and absolutely loved. I mean, so many tender moments and so many funny moments. So how is that different than writing a novel?
Oh God, it's so different. Also, it's a dramedy, so it's not a thriller in any means.
No, right.
At all. So I had been writing novels. I wrote 6 novels, I think. Like my first novel was published in 2004. A lot of people don't know that about me. I've been around for a long time, and I was writing like humorous women's fiction. This was back
I don't think I knew that. And I've known you a while.
In the chick lit days, I wrote, my first novel was called The Journal of Mortifying Moments.
My autobiography.
It's so dated. I mean, it's 30 years old or whatever, but 22 years old. It is funny, I will say, if I do say so myself. So I wrote a few books in that genre, and a lot of my stuff, and lucky for me, has continued to be optioned. Nothing's happened yet, but things get optioned. And so I thought, oh, well, I am a novelist. It must be very easy to break into screenwriting. Oh my God, it's not. It's what a tough business that is. But I did write a screenplay, an original screenplay for The Steps, and it got made into an indie film. And it was a really, really cool experience. Screenwriting was such a learning experience for me because it's really a craft. It's very different from writing a novel. Writing novels feels very natural for me because I've always been a big reader since I was a kid. Right. So, how you tell a story is kind of ingrained in us from reading. But when you're watching a movie, it's very different. And writing the script feels more foreign. You have to learn that. You have to learn that craft of showing without any, inner monologue.
Inner dialogue.
Yeah. So it was great. And structure is really important in screenplays. So that craft has really, really helped me, I feel like, as I've gone on to write thrillers. But I got the movie made. I got to go to set. It was very exciting. It premiered at TIFF. I got to go to TIFF. It was in the Toronto International Film Festival. Got to go. It was the closing. This is the most glamorous thing in my entire life. The closing gala film at the Miami International Film Festival, and they flew me to Miami.
Wow!
And we just had. It was so exciting and glamorous and wonderful. But then at the end of the day, I was like, okay, what do I want to do next? And I realized I wanted to go back to writing novels.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like I really I'm very introverted, like as much as that was, I felt like I was more collaborative, but I think as I've gotten older, I'm more introverted, and maybe I like a little more control over my work, like when you write a screenplay, they say, at first it belongs to the writer, then it belongs to the director, then it belongs to the editor. So every time you do a project, you're writing a script, they're going to take it, they're going to change it. Actors have input, so it's very cool, but it's also very different than writing novels, right? And then when it gets edited, it's cut together in different ways. So I am happy with that, how that movie turned out. And it does feel mostly true to the script, but
good.
There's lots of lines in there for good or bad that I didn't write, and people think you wrote every word. Like some of the funniest lines were ad libs by the actors, and
no way.
Yeah. And some of the worst lines that I'm like, cringe. So
Yeah.
what I love about writing novels, it's every word is your own. You work with one editor who is just trying to improve your novel and make it as good
Right.
as possible. Whereas with screenplays, there are a lot of fingers in the pie. There are a lot of objectives. You know, everybody wants actors want more screen time, and they
Yeah.
want their character to have more of this and more of that. And it's just very different. It's very
Well, yeah,
different.
I would imagine you're having to like manage or massage a lot of, well, dare I say egos,
Yeah,
but agendas
yeah,
to make something come together versus the autonomy and the agency you have when you're sitting down and writing. Like if you don't want Sydney to have that line, she doesn't have that line. Or
exactly. It's all your own, right? So that you
yeah,
really, for better or for worse, you really own it. And I mean, I've only had one film made, but it's very hard.
only one. You've
Only one.
had a film made. That's
But I'm not like a thank you. I know I'm not belittling it,
no,
but
I know.
you know, I'm just in this instance, I'm like, you know, I thought it would feel less vulnerable to have like a team that I worked with, but it actually felt more vulnerable, which was weird. And like, I remember when we went to TIFF, I brought my husband and my mom and my
Oh,
daughter.
okay.
My son had just started university, so he couldn't come. But we went to Toronto, and I had to go in and do an interview in the morning before the screening. And then I went back, and I was like, I was so nervous, Jen. It was crazy. Like I have had
Really?
so many books come out, but this
Yeah.
was so different. It's like sitting in a theater watching this on a big screen and seeing the audience react, being surrounded by the reaction made me
Right.
so nervous. And my mom goes, I think you need a gin and tonic. So my mom and
I
I
love
went
your mom, right?
hole in the wall bar around the corner and had a gin and tonic, and then we went and got ready and went to the thing, and it was fine, but it was very nerve wracking.
Well,
Very,
Robyn, I mean, you've written so many books. I would think that because you have that autonomy, that would make you vulnerable. But I guess you're not watching people reading it in real time. So is that the healthy distance? That
yeah, I think that's exactly what it's sort of like watching, and also comedy, right?
yeah,
Comedy is tough because it's like, are they going to laugh or are they not going to laugh? And it was so interesting. The best audience response was in Miami, and people were laughing so loud. It was so great, but it was so funny. They laughed at totally different things than they laughed at in Toronto. So I'm like, okay,
interesting.
Americans and Canadians are different. Like it was so different. Like people would laugh at one thing and it'd be dead silence in, you know, people would laugh in Toronto, dead silence in Miami, quiet in Toronto, killing themselves laughing in Miami. It was so
Yeah,
funny to do
it's
that.
interesting, and I think books are somewhat similar in the fact that we all bring our own life experience to it. So we do sometimes certain things resonate with us a little bit differently than they do others.
Yeah.
But by
Yeah.
the same token, I think the genius of you all who write books is the fact that we can see inside that character's head, to understand why they're doing what they're doing, which I think
Yeah.
is really helpful, because I think there are moments where I've sat and like, well, gosh, if I was Bianca, like, what would I do?
Right.
Or if I was Sydney, what would I do? Or how would I respond to what Curtis just said? I think
Yeah.
that's great. And I don't know that you have that same connection maybe to somebody on screen. I'm not belittling you wrote a movie and I loved it. And Josh Ritter, my God, he looks just like his dad. Holy cow.
Jason Ritter.
Jason, sorry. Josh
Good.
Ritter's the musician. But I just think that the books are just this amazing experience that is so different
Yeah.
sometimes. And
Well,
what
that's
you
what's
all do is masterful, to be able to, you basically have access to the same words I do, but yet you put them together in a way that creates this spectacular scene, this spectacular villa that's overlooking. And as they wind down the hill, to the seaside and capturing that spectacular blue of the water and what it's like to be in the bar with the locals who have the football game on and, are chatting. And it's amazing. And characters that you like, that you don't like, then you like again. I think
right.
that's a skill.
Well, thank you. And I mean, I love reading as well. And um, I think it's the freedom you have when you're writing a novel. You're in people's heads. you can control everything. And I guess that's why with film and TV, it takes a team to get what is in that book, right?
Right.
Onto to make it a relatable story. So much is in the acting because we can't be inside their heads. There's to show it on their faces, and the screenwriter has to show it through actions. And in a book, we know exactly what they're thinking, and we know why they're doing what they're doing. And it does give you that depth that is challenging sometimes to show on screen.
So you talked about being a reader, right? And how much you love to read and reading as a kid. Did you know you always wanted to be a writer? Did you start writing when you were a kid?
Yes,
Or
I did. And like as I said before, I grew up in a very small town in the interior of British Columbia, pretty far north. It was a pulp mill town. Um, so it didn't ever feel like a realistic goal to be an author. Like I just didn't know anybody that did that, or
what?
um, but I was always a creative kid. I mean, I think about how boring it was back then. Without phones. I
Without the
worry
internet.
about I
Yeah.
worry about people's creativity. I'm like, how will people become creative? But they are. They're persisting. But I'm just like, I had so much time to just imagine and think and create in my head and
Right.
draw and write. And so my first story that I wrote was in grade 3. I know you guys say third grade. We say
Yeah.
grade 3. And it was my teacher put it up in the hallway of our elementary school without asking me.
Wait.
Just did it. And it was like my first it was my first published thing. And
Right.
I was mortified. I wanted to die. I was so embarrassed.
But she saw something clearly
Yeah.
that you have a gift for telling story, and
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. And it was always a natural thing. And I have to say, for a town that was fairly blue collar, we had a lot of mills. We had a lot of pulp mills and sawmills. And I had such a creative education. I had the greatest teachers that
that's awesome.
that came in from I don't know where. I remember my grade 6 teacher, Miss Van Leusden. I always talk about her. Came in.
Yeah.
She just came in. I don't know where she came from. And she had like a video camera, and we were allowed to do like we were making little skits and sketches, and we were doing radio plays, we were doing all this stuff. And then in high school I had all these creative electives I could take. I took screenwriting directing in
Wow.
Cornell, BC. In grade 12 I took creative writing, of course, like just theater. So I really feel like I was given a good kickstart. And then it took a while for me to figure out that I actually could write a novel and get it published. But
Robyn, I'm so glad you followed through on that, and that you had all those creative people to just basically take what was inside of you and just make it visible and to you and possible.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel really lucky. I feel really lucky that had that. I have another friend who I grew up with, and she is a really successful artist in Toronto. Ramona Nordell, her name is, and we grew up together. And we both say, like, what a crazy creative outlet we had despite the environment. Yeah.
It makes me somewhat think. I mean, I know Strangers in the Villa is set in this isolated place, but if you remove distractions, you remove the internet and the phone and social media and all these other things, does it give an opportunity for people to kind of hone in on their, I guess, genuine or authentic self and their creativity? I mean, growing up, like, I wasn't allowed to watch TV. It was like an hour a day, and it was like PBS, and my parents were like, no coloring books. It was like blank tablets of paper and you be creative. And I was like, wait, what?
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, so I understand to a certain extent, that, but it makes me think, because you didn't have all those distractions, is that what you and your friend, is she being the successful artist? Is that what people need to be able to take a step back? And
I wonder. I don't know. I mean, I do see creativity is still flourishing despite everything that's going on. But it's funny when you talk about TV, we never had cable. So we had 3 channels and 2 were the same.
Yes. And you had to probably get up to change it.
Yeah, exactly. You have to get up to change it. And also there was a lot of hockey on in my house. So,
No.
I wasn't getting to watch all the stuff I really wanted, which I will say has manifested into a serious TV addiction. I love TV. I watch so much TV. I watch movies.
Yeah.
I am like sitting on that couch staring at that box, like more than is good for me. I know that, but
it's part of your research process.
exactly. And it does give me, I do watch with maybe a more critical eye sometimes. I'm like, what an interesting way to tell a story. What an interesting choice for the character made. But also I'm just, that's not happening when I'm watching Traders or whatever.
Oh, exactly. It's a great show. Yeah, I was going to say, what TV show is like capturing your attention right now?
Okay, so I just did a rewatch of Succession. Because, there are the holy grails of television, The Sopranos. Yes. I've watched it through 3 times. We'll watch again. My son's done like 4 times, I think. And Breaking Bad, I've rewatched. Succession, I'm rewatching Euphoria right now because a new season is coming out.
Okay.
But as far as new shows, The Pitt is phenomenal.
No kidding.
It's phenomenal. God, it's so good. The other one I'm watching, and I only know about 1/8 of what is going on, but it's so well done. It's Industry.
You know what? It's so funny you mentioned that because it had a preview before The Pit and I was fascinated and I was like, okay, I guess I need to get caught up. How did I miss this?
Yeah. So you know what? It's in the world of high finance. So, push through the first few episodes. It takes a while to attach to the characters.
Okay.
And, but it's very good. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So, speaking of stories, do you remember what book it was that you read as a kid that really kind of captured your attention? Because you've always been reading. Is there something that you kind of always look back on and you're like, that was the book?
I think there were a few, but the one, I was a big Nancy Drew girl.
Yep.
Like obsessed with Nancy Drew. And I remember one time being so scared reading one. There was a seance in it.
Yes.
And there was like a ghost rapping on the wall. And I was like so scared. And my mom was like, I'm in bed with my lamp. And I'm like, I'm scared. My mom goes, well, stop reading. I'm like, I can't.
Right.
But even younger was like Roald Dahl. I know he's controversial now, but his books, like James and the Giant Peach and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, as a young kid, like the storytelling and the world building and the characters. Oh, yeah. God, just love them so much.
Absolutely.
And Judy Blume.
So much fun to see how things have evolved from you, as a kid from grade 3, your story being published without your consent, on the wall. Hopefully that you didn't have any of your classmates or teachers come to some mishap, we'll say.
Yeah.
We're writing thrillers in grade 3.
Yeah.
But still, and how you're influenced in writing a movie and then going on writing romance. What was it called? The Mortifying Events?
Journal of Mortifying Moments.
So
okay. It wasn't really romance. It was, like chick lit. It was, this was the Bridget Jones's Diary era and Confessions of a Shopaholic. R.I.P. Sophie Kinsella. So sad.
I know. So sad.
Such a queen. Yeah. So, that was, and I think I got in a little late to the genre. Timing is so important when you get your name out there and get readers' attention. But, that was fun. And then what I like to read shifted. I used to read all those books, and then over time I started going darker and darker. And that's when I thought, maybe this is what I should try writing if this is what I enjoy reading.
Yeah. Can you suspend that critical part of your brain when you're reading today? Or are you always like, what were they thinking? They gave too much away, or they shouldn't have. Can you suspend that?
Well, I try. Yeah, I suspend it definitely. Yeah, like I just am so grateful when I get sucked into something.
Mm-hmm.
Reading Strangers right now, the big divorce memoir. Have you heard? I think it's a #1 New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a true story, and it's so horrifying and engaging. It's just about a marriage falling apart, but
Yeah.
it's just, I'm just like blown away. I guess there's one thing in it where I'm like, the dialogue, sounds a little stilted, but otherwise it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And
There's so many good books being published right now. And I kind of have an opportunity to read ahead,
I bet,
which
yeah.
I'm lucky and have to, I shouldn't say have to, was asked to, it's probably a better phrase, to moderate a panel at PLA this year. And
Oh, excellent.
six books, six writers. And, I was told like, okay, put them into 2 panels, 2 groups of 3, and, find the common themes and facilitate. And I'm like, okay. And I'm reading a true crime, which I typically don't do.
Yeah.
But it's all about Alex Murdaugh. And it's like I'm like horrified reading it. And like, it's a journalist who's writing this, like,
oh yeah.
And I'm seeing transcripts, and I'm seeing like interviews in the car, with the police officer and Alex, and just like,
wow.
It's almost like I have to read with the lights on. You talk about like watching movies that are really scary. Like I'm reading with the lights on, and then I'm like, I have to wash my eyes out. Like I'm having like a hard time reading it, but at the same time, I'm fascinated by it. If that makes any kind of sense.
Story that the Hulu series is based on?
I don't know. It's just called The Family Man by James.
Oh, maybe it's different. Is it a podcaster or a journalist?
Journalist.
Okay, I think that it's based on a woman who was a journalist but did a podcast. The series I watched. Okay.
I don't want to watch it until I finished this book.
Wow.
But I'm again like I'm fascinated. Yeah, James Ludson, I believe, is his name. I believe it comes out in May.
Oh, it's not out yet. Gotcha. Okay.
But fascinating, and it's, I guess it speaks to part of the reason why I enjoy your book so much, is that it's human behavior and what people do when they're put in certain situations, and not everybody behaves the way they think they want to, ought to, should.
Yeah. And I like to think of, or what's most fascinating to me, and I hope my books are the same, is they're a bit more of a why done it than a who done it.
Exactly.
I like the why. Why would you do something like that? What drives you to it? And that's what is the psychology. There's a lot of, I have a good friend who's a psychologist who was very helpful in Strangers in the Villa. She's a marriage counselor. And so she was so helpful in understanding where, how you move forward or don't, right? And what these betrayals do to a person.
Right. The story goes back and forth in perspectives. You have like Sydney and Curtis's perspective, and you have Bianca and Damien's perspective. And then interspersed, you have the marriage counselor, Ellen, that Curtis and Sydney were seeing. So I think it's really unique because you have what's supposed to, what I imagine is a fair balance, because she's hearing both sides, whereas Damien and Bianca are telling from their perspective, and you're seeing it from their perspective, and same with Curtis and Sydney. So the why done it, I think, is absolutely spot on. Once you understand, not that I, condone any of the things that are done by any means.
Of course. It's extreme. It's definitely extreme.
But that's the thing with Alex Murdaugh. I can't understand why.
Oh, God. Yeah, he was a monster.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of drug abuse and...
Right, and financial, but just to hear how these kids grew up in the series of bodies that ended up, it's
unbelievable. That is that's like...
Yeah, I need some chiclet, like as a palate cleanser after.
Wow, well, I've written it down, so I look forward to it.
Yeah. So this has been a delight being able to catch up with you. Just been so excited by everything that you have written over the last several years. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. And you've been such an ongoing support. I really appreciate you.
Oh, and likewise for this little project of mine. So this is like the story's end, right? Final 5 questions.
Okay.
So you've been to Spain a few times. What's your favorite thing about the country or the culture of Spain?
You know what? I'm going to just have to go with the water, the Mediterranean. I have had the best swimming experience of my life at Agua Blava, which is a beach that is in the book.
Yes.
And it is truly, I'm like, this is the most heavenly experience I've ever had. Like, just the buoyancy and the clear water and just beautiful. There's more things. There's the food, there's the culture, there's the people, there's so much, but just that
moment. Yeah.
That moment
that
just
spot
stayed with me.
And I think it's great that you're able to capture that in the book. Just a reminder. Curtis and Sydney buy a house to renovate, right? What's one skill that you have that would be beneficial if you were to renovate a villa?
I don't have any skills.
Oh, come on.
And also I don't have any patience. I said to my husband when we bought our house about 7 years ago, I was like, there can be no renos done. I was like, I can't do it. I can't live through it. I can't exist in the chaos. I don't have any skills whatsoever. And like, we did one tiny thing and we were away when the reno happened, and no, zero.
Yeah. Are you good at keeping secrets?
Yes, I am. If it really matters, yeah. If someone tells me something, they're like, please, this is important to me, don't tell anyone. I have many secrets that no one ever knows.
Good to know. So you are a traveler.
Yep.
Carry-on or check baggage?
It depends, but I did lose my luggage once on the way back from Spain. And I lost a suitcase for 3 weeks. I did get it back, but it was very stressful and very sad. I had things that I had, like, just a few gifts and things I bought in Spain that really mattered to me. This little bracelet I got, it's like got the Gaudi font R on it. And I just really loved it. And for some reason, it's so tiny, but I put it in the suitcase and I'm like, my little bracelet's gone. Yeah. But I got it back. So if I can do carry on, I do, but also big overpacker, so it's tough. Yeah.
Window or aisle?
Aisle. Stretch my legs.
That's right. You're a lot taller than I am.
Tall.
Yeah. And then the final question, what song is always on your road trip playlist?
Oh, that's so good. I'm going to go with Depeche Mode, something by Depeche Mode. Like, my husband and I, our musical tastes overlap with Depeche Mode, you know.
And that's it. Yeah, it's like the Venn diagram.
He's still really stuck in his grunge era, and I've moved on. So, you know, we both are big fans of Depeche Mode, and can't go wrong with Personal Jesus.
No, absolutely not. A huge thank you to all of you who are listening, and even bigger thank you to Robyn Harding, whose spectacular story, Strangers in the Villa, just published 2 weeks ago. Make sure and get your copy today. Make sure you have everything done because you won't be able to stop reading. Robyn has a wonderful talent for writing stories that leave you wondering what you would do as you keep turning the pages long into the night. To know who else is going to be a guest, go to storytoaccount.com. It's a Story to Count with Jen Jumba.
Thank you, Jen.